Thank you, Emily. That was terrific. It is an extraordinary honor for me to be here, and this is both a unbelievable surprise, and I'm not very easily surprised, nor am I very easily humbled. But this award did a little bit of both, because the people who really do all the work and who really make speech and debate happen are sitting right here. We have three of our coaches here, Becca Marks, Chase Williams, and Bob Schertz, who do the heavy lifting. And as I think the only reason I won Administrator of the Year is that I figured out that you can't actually argue with coaches of the speech and debate team when they need things. They're just going to win. So I learned a long time ago just to give up and give them what they need. So I think that's why I'm here. So, but seriously, this is a program that's both deeply important to my school and deeply important to me, and I want to talk about that in a minute. But I also want to thank a few people besides our coaches. I want to thank everybody who participates in this community. First and foremost, I want to thank the sponsors who are in this room, making this happen. This is the Super Bowl for some of our kids, and you make it happen, so thank you. And all of the judges who spend unbelievable amounts of hours at these tournaments supporting the kids. My son would come home and he'd have his judges things and he'd debate whether they were fair or not, of course, depending on how he had done. But I can just imagine how hard it is to organize those tournaments, how hard it is to get those judges. And so thank you all for everything you do. And then obviously I want to thank the National Speech and Debate Association for this honor. There's two reasons. I'm going to ad-lib. I'm going to go extemporaneous here in a minute and add a third. But that why speech and debate is so important to me. One is purely professional. My school, Hawken School, over the last decade or so, our school has been deeply questioning the best ways to achieve our mission, and our mission is forward-focused preparation for the real world through the development of character and intellect. As Hawken works harder to achieve these ideals, our teachers and administrators have come to believe that many aspects of the current traditional model of education are becoming increasingly obsolete, and in many ways working against our goals for real-world preparation and character development. As Hawken works to re-envision education, one thing's becoming sort of increasingly clear. The character is simply ethical human relational skills applied in the world. And those skills can be taught. In fact, the future of education, in my opinion, will be largely around helping students develop ethically applied skills. There are few things that our school achieves that help us reach this mission of real-world readiness, applied skills, and character development, as well as our speech and debate program. Students in our program learn to think critically, articulate arguments creatively, speak cogently, compete vigorously, and collaborate generously. The list of useful skills is long, but since I suspect I'm preaching to the converted a little bit here, you get my point, which is that speech and debate is actually essential if we want to prepare our kids for the real world and to develop their character. So the first reason I support it is it's just my job. We can't live our mission unless this program is large and strong. But the second is more personal. The second reason that this is really personally important to me, when I became the head of school at Hawken 12 years ago, I brought my three sons into our school. We were a K-12 school of about 1,300 kids. And I brought a son who was a new second grader, fourth grader, and a seventh grader. And my two younger sons adjusted to the school pretty easily because they were much younger. But as you can imagine, being the son of the new head of school and a new seventh grader at the same time is not a lot of fun. And that's exactly how my oldest son, Ryan, experienced that transition. When he moved to the upper school a couple years later and was a ninth grader, he was a very young, very small, very shy freshman. And he was actively trying to fly under the radar and stay as uninvolved in Hawken School as he could potentially do. And honestly, my wife and I were really worried about him and about maybe this move was not a good thing for him. Until a senior just grabbed my son in the hallway and said, "Hey, Ryan, what are you doing after school?" "I don't know, I'm a freshman." "Why don't you come and come to the speech and debate meeting after school? It's only one meeting and you don't have to join, but if you come and you like it, everybody's welcome." So a senior paid attention to him. He did what you dutifully do in your 9th grade and a kid pays attention to you. So he went to the meeting. And that was the most important decision he made in high school, was going to that meeting. Watching him get up every morning on Saturday at 5:30 and put on a suit and run out and come home at 11 o'clock at night, exhausted, but incredibly proud of himself, was the moment I knew he was going to be okay in high school. The self-confidence that speech and debate helped him develop, as well as his reasoning and speaking skills, was nothing short of amazing to watch. By the time he was a senior, he was one of the captains of the debate team, and he went on to a variety of leadership positions in college. And this is going to be completely ad lib because I had no idea that Dean Edmonds from Colorado College was going to be here. All three of my son Ryan's out of Colorado College, he graduated, but my 2 youngest sons are there currently as students. So all 3 of my boys went there. And one of the leadership positions, which I wasn't going to specifically mention, was my son was president of his fraternity. And so Dean Edmonds knows firsthand the arguing skills of my son because he spent some time in the dean's office trying to convince them not to kick his fraternity off campus. So if you want a more detailed version of how well prepared he was to argue, you can talk to Dean Edmonds after this. And I was thrilled when I saw CC as one of the sponsors. And I don't think it's a coincidence that my kids ended up there, to be honest. I believe that his development, my son's development as a leader, and the fact that he's now a confident young adult was largely due to what happened to him during the speech and debate seasons. I saw firsthand how transformative this was for my child, and I want that opportunity for every child in my school if they want it. So supporting the speech and debate program at Hawken School is a pleasure, as it represents one of the highest degrees of excellence associated with our school. To live our mission, we're putting energy and resources into the development of this program. It really is a no-brainer, actually. So there's one other category that I don't actually have in my speech that I'm going to add, a third reason, which I was reminded of yesterday at talking to our kids and seeing some of the students perform here, which is the necessary ingredient that having trained people who understands reasonable, well-balanced arguments can contribute to our civil society. If only most of the people who led this country had the skills to see both sides of every argument that the kids in the debate side of this organization do. You force kids to argue both sides, to see the world from a side that they may not agree. I'm sure when some of your resolutions come out, kids see them and go, "I hate this resolution because I can only argue one side." And what our coaches will tell them is, right now you can only argue one side, but by the time you train for this, you'll be able to argue both sides. I'm really deeply thankful that you are producing students who will go into our democracy with the capacity to argue both sides, because to argue something cogently requires you to understand it. And being able to understand the both sides of everything is maybe the only thing that'll save this democracy, in my opinion, right now. So you guys are doing the best job of any organization I know. So back to this. The last thing I want to say is just deeply thank you for what you're doing, what you've contributed, what it gives to our students, and what it gave to my son. Thank you.